Yo, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the JT Sports Podcast. I'm your host, JT, and Steelers country. Let's get ready to suck this year because Russell Wilson has been named the starting quarterback of the Steelers for this season, and I'm hoping for the best, but I'm preparing for the worst in this situation. It's hard to trust a head coach in Mike Tomlin, who it didn't take until the final weeks of last year to realize that the third quarterback on the roster was actually the best quarterback on the team. This organization just has a head coach that is blind or Stevie Wonder when it comes to evaluating the quarterback position, which makes it hard to get behind this decision when you have Russell Wilson, who should be in the retirement home at this point because he's 35 years old and he's regressing. And although he may be slightly better than Kenny Pickett, the Steelers still have the worst quarterback room in the AFC North. The only reason Pittsburgh got 10 wins last year was because two of them came against a Cincinnati Bengals team that didn't have Joe Burrow playing. You beat the Ravens twice, but only one of those wins came against Lamar Jackson. The second win came when you struggled to beat the Baltimore Ravens junior varsity squad. And we're about to find out early this season just how good Russell Wilson still is. Because week one, the Steelers have to play the Atlanta Falcons, which definitely is a winnable game if Russ can give this team competent quarterback play. And week two is really going to be the big test just to see if Russ is going to last this season as the starter, because he's going up against his former team, the Denver Broncos. And let's be honest, if he gets outplayed by Bo Nix in that game, the Steelers are more than likely going to end up having their first losing season under Mike Tomlin. Because if Denver truly did set Russell Wilson up to fail and it was an awful situation, then he should be able to ball out against his former team with a head coach in the organization that actually wants him and is embracing him. Sean Payton didn't really give Russell Wilson that much leeway. He kind of had somewhat of a vendetta against the dude, but when you're getting paid the kind of money Russell Wilson was in Denver, is it wrong to have high expectations for Russ? Is it wrong to hold him to a higher standard than you would any other quarterback? Because I felt like the pay that Russ was receiving in Denver warranted the high expectations. And when he wasn't able to play up to the level expected, the criticism was definitely justified. And you can't blame Denver for moving on from Russell Wilson when he's starting to fall victim to father time. What has made Russell Wilson one of the NFL's most prolific quarterbacks over the last decade has been his ability to turn a bad play into a great play. He's been able to overcome having bad offensive line play. He never had good offensive lines for the majority of his prime years in Seattle. And with the young offensive line the Steelers are going to be starting this year, there's going to be a lot of inconsistency up front. So Russell Wilson has to be able to break out the sacks and be able to buy time for these receivers to get open. And I don't believe that he has the ability to do that at a high level anymore, because not only has he started to get up there in age, but his athletic ability has greatly started to diminish over the last couple of years. During the preseason games that he played in this year, he looked old, sluggish, and it's just hard to see the Steelers winning more than 7-8 games this year with the NFL's toughest schedule, and you still have one of the worst quarterback rooms in the league. Russ struggles to throw the football in the middle of the field due to his height and his unwillingness to throw in the middle of the field. He still throws a pretty accurate deep ball, but that's when he's willing to throw the football downfield. Now it just seems like with Russ being old, all he is now at this point in his career is a check down Charlie. And that's the same issue that Kenny Pickett had the last 2 years in Pittsburgh. All he did was throw 4 and 5 yard checkdowns. He didn't want to push the football downfield, and nor did he have the arm strength to do so. And a lot of y'all are really upset with me because I said that the quarterback play that the Steelers are going to be receiving from Russell Wilson this year is not going to be that much better compared to what they were getting from Kenny Pickett. Just because you won 10 games last year with awful quarterback play doesn't mean you're going to be able to do the same thing this year. This is going to be Mike Tomlin's first losing season as the head coach of the Steelers. I really believe that. I'm not hating. I'm just calling it how it is. If Russ was still good, the Broncos wouldn't have taken the NFL's largest dead cap hit in league history to get rid of him. You don't get rid of quality quarterbacks. We both know, me and you, how hard it is to find serviceable quarterback play in today's NFL. Look at the revolving door the Steelers have been at quarterback ever since Big Ben Roethlisberger retired. You went from Mitch Trubisky, the Kenny Small Hands Pickett, to now the Grandpa Russ. I believe the Steelers made a bad decision by starting Russ. Justin Fields should have been the starter, and he eventually is going to end up dethroning Russ for the QB1 spot at some point throughout the year. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And I see Russell Wilson lasting the first month of the season. Once the Steelers get out to a 1-4, 2-5 start, then that's when they end up making that quarterback change. And I'm not saying that Justin Fields is the answer neither. And to be honest with you, I'd rather, as a fan, the Steelers be terrible this year and put themselves in position to draft one of the top quarterbacks in next year's draft than find a way to skate by, winning 8-9 games, take themselves out of position to address their long-time quarterback issue, and you're once again in the same situation that you were at that forced you to draft Kenny Pickett. You have to draft Kenny Pickett because you are good enough where you're never completely going to flame out to be in position to have a high enough draft pick to get a game-changing quarterback in the first round. To get those, you have to be bad enough where you have a top 5, top 10 pick. With Mike Tomlin, he guarantees that you're probably going to be drafting anywhere between the 15th to late 20 range in the first round next year, which puts you out of position to get a Carson Beck or Shedeur Sanders. And if you want to ever be able to go far in the playoffs and hoist that Lombardi trophy again, you need high-end quarterback play. How are you going to get that if you're never in position to draft one and you're unwilling to trade up for one as well? All Russell Wilson is a Band-Aid for what has been the biggest problem holding back the Pittsburgh Steelers. TJ Watt, Micah Fitzpatrick are future Hall of Famers. Same thing with Cam Hayward. Those guys aren't getting any younger, and you're wasting their prime years when you're bullshitting with the quarterback position, thinking that Russ is going to be the answer. All he is duct tape that's not going to last. Once we get to the mid portion of the season, we're going to start to see this thing unravel, and it's going to look ugly. Not only is the quarterback position still the worst in the AFC North, but this offense is worse than what it was last year because you don't have a true number 2 wideout to pair alongside of George Pickens. You downgraded that wide receiver. You got rid of Deontay Johnson. Y'all can call him all overrated all you want to, but it's hard to find quality number 2 wide receivers that are great at creating separation. You got rid of Deontay Johnson and you downgraded by replacing him with who? Van Jefferson? Now, we don't know what to expect from Roman Wilson. Roman Wilson should end up being a pretty good player, but I don't see superstar potential in Roman Wilson. I see somebody who's good enough to be a capable slot receiver, and the Steelers do have a good track record at developing that position, but it's just hard to get behind this move with the incompetence that Mike Tomlin has at being able to properly make the right decision with the quarterback position. He's Stevie Wonder when it comes to evaluating quarterback play. This is the same dude that last year told the broadcasting team that the reason why he started Mitch Trubisky was because he had experience being a franchise quarterback in the past. Does that sound like a head coach that knows what a good quarterback looks like? I mean, Mason Rudolph was QB3 week 1 last year, and he ended up being QB1 at the end of last season. How did it take Mike Tomlin 3 months to figure out Mason Rudolph was the best quarterback on the team? You know, I'm hoping for the best, but I'm preparing for the worst in this situation. The Steelers aren't going to be going anywhere this year. You got to stop judging people based off the past. Just because Mike Tomlin has gone all this time with no good quarterback play without a losing season doesn't mean it's something that's going to be sustainable. This is a different NFL now. The teams that go the furthest in the playoffs are the teams that have elite quarterback play. You saw what Josh Allen did to us last year in the wild card round, man. That dude ran one of our defenders over and had a 50-something yard rushing touchdown. That's what an elite quarterback can do. An elite quarterback makes you a premier Super Bowl contender every single year. They make you a lock for the playoffs every season. You can get rid of a Stephon Diggs and still be a lock to win your division because of how good Josh Allen is. The Steelers don't have that anymore. They keep bringing in these randos at quarterbacks that washed up at their previous team, and then they wash out in Pittsburgh, where their careers ultimately come to an end as a starter. Where's Mitch Trubisky now? A backup. Where's Kenny Pickett at now? A backup. These are guys that the Steelers have started at QB over the last 3 years. Mason Rudolph, a backup. Russell Wilson is more closer to being a backup than he is of being a high-level starter. And it hurts to say that when you think about the best moments of Russell Wilson's career, but these players can't play at a high level forever. Eventually, Father Time catches up to you, and Father Time is right on the doorstep for Russell Wilson. He doesn't have the athletic ability to maintain the style of play that has given him the reputation that he has around the league. I'm betting against Pittsburgh having a winning season this year. I don't see it. Until you get better, more productive quarterback play, this franchise is going to continue to be doing the same thing they've been doing over the last 5 years, which is running in place. At best, you get to the wild card round. Cool. But is that really a win when you got a quarterback that's on the tail end of his career? How does the Steelers making it to the playoffs, overachieving this year, fix the long-term answer or the long-term problem at quarterback? I mean, Justin Fields, there's no guarantee that he's going to be back on the Steelers next year. For all we know, he could sign with another team and get a better shot to start again. What if Matthew Stafford retires and Sean McVay says, you know what, Justin Fields, come play for us? There's nothing that Justin Fields is going to be learning from Russell Wilson that's going to make him a better quarterback. What's going to make Justin Fields a better quarterback is going to an offensive-minded coach that knows how to tailor an offense around his strengths. And if you start Justin Fields this year, you potentially could have the best rushing attack in the NFL with the threat that he is on the ground with his legs, coupled with Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris sharing the backfield with him. So I'm not a big fan of this decision. I felt like Justin Fields outperformed Russell Wilson throughout training camp and in the preseason. Mike Tomlin said that this was a tough decision, but it just seems like a political move to me because before we even got to mini camp or training camp, back in February, Mike Tomlin said that Russ had pole positioning to be the Steelers starting quarterback. He already had his mind made up, which is why this was a bad decision. He didn't give Justin Fields an opportunity to really compete for this job. He knew he was going to give it to Russ, and it's unfair to the Steelers fan base out there because we deserve the best quarterback, and Russ right now is not a better quarterback than what Justin Fields is. He's only going to get worse. Mike Tomlin is a defensive-minded coach. He doesn't know anything about offense based off his quarterback decisions in the past. And you trust him that he made the right decision? with Russell Wilson being named the starter? Yeah, I don't. Revisionist history says otherwise. Every time Mike Tomlin makes a decision with these starting quarterback competitions, it's always the wrong one. And it doesn't take him until later on in the season to realize who the best quarterback is. I disagree with this decision strongly to start Russell Wilson, and I give it about a month, 5-6 weeks into the season before it flames out and we really figure out that Russell Wilson doesn't have it anymore.